The first lie Marcus Hale ever told at Arden Logistics was small enough to fit inside an email subject line. Inventory discrepancy, possible procedural oversight. He stared at the words for a long time before hitting send, telling himself it wasn't really a lie, more like a nudge, a gentle redirection of attention. After all, mistakes happened all the time in a warehouse that moved millions of dollars worth of electronics every week. What mattered was who management believed had made them. And Marcus needed them to believe it was Ethan Cole. Welcome to Shadows of Justice, where crime meets compassion. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. For returning viewers, thanks for sticking to the channel. Ethan had started at Arden the same month Marcus did, 5 years earlier. They were both junior supervisors then, both hungry, both broke, both quietly terrified of slipping back into the lives they'd clawed their way out of. But where Marcus learned to smile at the right moments and speak the language of ambition, Ethan stayed stubbornly decent. He worked hard, kept his head down, and went home to his wife and young daughter every night without lingering for after-hours drinks with management. When the regional manager announced a single promotion to operations lead, one office, one salary, one future, Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He had student loans, a mother whose medical bills never seemed to end, and a gnawing fear that if he didn't rise now, he never would. Ethan, meanwhile, had something Marcus didn't: trust. People liked him, they believed him, and that made him dangerous. The warehouse thefts began quietly, a pallet here, a crate there, nothing that triggered alarms, just enough to raise eyebrows. Marcus learned the system well, where the cameras glitched, which logs were rarely audited. He didn't steal anything himself, he just adjusted numbers, shifted timestamps, nudged reports so that every trail bent, subtly and consistently, toward Ethan. When internal audit came down from headquarters, Marcus played his role perfectly, cooperative, concerned. "I hate to say this," he told them, eyes lowered, voice heavy, "but I noticed some irregularities on Ethan's shifts. I thought it was my duty to report it." Ethan was suspended the next day. By the end of the week, he was arrested. Marcus watched from a distance as his co-worker, his rival, was led out of the warehouse in handcuffs, confusion and terror written across his face. Ethan's wife screamed. Someone dropped a clipboard. The place smelled of dust and oil and something burnt, and Marcus felt sick. But when the promotion came through 2 weeks later, complete with a glass-walled office and a congratulatory email from corporate, Marcus told himself it had been worth it. He told himself that until the night he saw Ethan's daughter on the local news. The segment was short, a community vigil outside the county jail. Ethan had been denied bail. Prosecutors were charging him with felony theft and conspiracy, alleging he'd been siphoning inventory for months. His daughter, 6 years old, small and solemn, clutched a handmade sign that read, "My daddy is not a thief." Marcus turned off the TV and sat in the dark long after the screen went black. Sleep became impossible. Every time Marcus closed his eyes, he saw the look Ethan gave him the day of the arrest. Not accusation, not anger, but bewilderment, as if the world had suddenly stopped making sense. The guilt didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves, in the way people spoke Ethan's name at work, lowering their voices, in the empty desk that no one had bothered to clear out, in the knowledge that the thefts hadn't actually stopped because the real culprits were higher up, quietly protected by the same system Marcus just gamed. 3 months into Ethan's incarceration, Marcus found the error.
It was buried deep in an old server backup, a redundancy no one ever checked. a camera feed from a blind spot he'd assumed was dead. The footage showed a late-night transaction, hands moving fast, faces partially obscured, but one thing was unmistakable: the timestamp. It was a night Ethan hadn't been on shift. Marcus felt the room tilt. He watched the clip again and again, his pulse pounding in his ears. If this footage surfaced, it would blow a hole straight through the prosecution's timeline. And Marcus was the only one who knew it existed. For 3 days, he did nothing. He told himself it wasn't his responsibility. The justice system would sort it out. Appeals existed for a reason. Confessing now would destroy everything: his career, his credibility, his mother's financial security. He would go from rising star to disgraced whistleblower overnight. On the 4th night, he drove to the jail. Ethan looked thinner, older. The jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. When he saw Marcus, his eyes hardened for the first time. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked, voice flat. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, then finally told the truth. He didn't spare himself. He explained the email, the reports, the way he'd bent the evidence just enough to make it all point one direction. He told Ethan about the footage, about the timestamp, about how everything could change if Marcus was willing to go on record. When he finished, the room was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. "Why now?" Ethan asked. Marcus swallowed. "Because I can't live with it anymore." Ethan laughed, a short, broken sound. "You already lived with it," he said, "for months." "I know, and I'll live with the consequences, but I won't let your daughter grow up thinking her father was a criminal if I can stop it." Ethan studied him for a long time. Then he leaned back in his chair. "You understand," he said slowly, "that if you testify, you're admitting to a felony." "Yes." "And that I might still lose years of my life to this, even if the truth comes out?" "Yes." Ethan nodded once. "Then do it," he said. "Not for me, for her." The trial reopened quietly. Marcus's affidavit sent shockwaves through Arden Logistics and the DA's office alike. Defense attorneys pounced. The footage was authenticated. The timestamps felled. Under oath, Marcus told the whole story again, this time to a packed courtroom. His voice shook, his hands trembled. He watched Ethan's wife grip the pew until her knuckles went white. When the judge dismissed the charges for lack of credible evidence, the sound Ethan made wasn't a cheer, it was a sob, raw, unguarded, years of pressure breaking loose at all once. Marcus was arrested on his way out of the courthouse. The sentence came 6 months later: conspiracy to falsify records, obstruction of justice. He lost his job, his savings, his reputation. His mother wept when he told her, but she held his hand and said, "You did the right thing. Late, but right." Prison was smaller than Marcus expected, quieter. He worked in the library, cataloging books no one checked out. At night, he wrote letters he never sent. One afternoon, a guard handed him an envelope. Inside was a photograph. Ethan stood outside a modest house, his daughter on his shoulders, both of them squinting into the sun. On the back, in careful handwriting, were 4 words: "She knows the truth." Marcus pressed the photo to his chest and cried. He would carry the weight of what he'd done for the rest of his life. Redemption didn't erase damage, it didn't rewind time or restore lost months, but it did one quiet, essential thing. It told the truth. And sometimes that was the only freedom left. This is Shadows of Justice, where crime meets compassion. Subscribe for more emotional true crime and redemption storytelling, where every scar tells a story worth hearing.